In today's group devotion, we'll continue our series on sex in church, uncensored truth for an uncensored world. Over the previous 2 weeks, we've heard some great sermons on God's plan and purpose for sex. But I think this Sunday was the best by far. Pastor Alex's points of sex that is honored as holy and sex that is honored as happy simplified what it means to honor God by guarding the sacredness of sexuality. There were so many profound truths this week, but something Pastor said early in the sermon kept coming back to my mind. He told us to ask ourselves this question: do I want to please God? Well, most of us would immediately say, yes, without a doubt, I want to please God. After all, we spend a lot of time praying and seeking God's will to please Him. We want to know where to go to college, where we should work, where we should live, whom we should marry, and so many other of important life's decisions. But what if we change the question to, do I want to live a life that is pleasing to God? Do I want to set aside my personal goals and dreams and desires and ambitions to live as God has commanded me? Am I willing to do that which God has commanded me and said is right, even when culture says, well, it's no big deal? I've shared before that God's will is what we would do. I've shared before that God's will is what we would want if we knew what God knows. We would do what God wants us to do if we knew what God knows. I don't always understand why things happen, but I know God is in control. The problem is when I'm faced with a decision between what I know the Bible teaches and something that I really want to do. Sex outside of marriage is one of those things that God expects to be between a husband and wife only. But you've heard what our culture says, right? Culture says we're two consenting adults and it's only sex, so why do we have to wait? Why can't we do what we want to do? Or maybe that you've heard them say this: God gave me these desires, so why should I have to wait until I'm married? Well, the answer to both these questions is you can have sex now. However, you will not be living a life pleasing to God. Just because we desire something doesn't mean we get to fulfill that desire the way that we want to. Paul dealt with this topic with the Corinthian church. In 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 12 through 20, Paul tells them that as believers, our bodies are the temple of God, so having any sexual immoral relationship is dishonoring to God. And if that wasn't clear enough, in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verses 8 and 9, he writes, "To those who aren't married and to widows, it's better to stay unmarried just as I am. But if they can't control themselves, they should go ahead and marry. It's better to marry than to burn with lust." I don't want this to seem like I'm picking on those who are single, because this same teaching goes to those who are married as well. Hebrews 13:4 says that we are to honor marriage and guard the sacredness of sexual intimacy between a husband and a wife. We should do everything possible to assure our spouses love, devotion, and commitment. They should never doubt that they are the key holder to our hearts. Yes, I know that's corny, but it doesn't make it any less true, right? Recently, Shirley and I added the Love Nudge app to our phones. The app lets you take a free test to determine your love language. You can invite your spouse so your accounts are connected. I can see Shirley's love language and set daily, weekly, and monthly reminders. For example, her number one love language is words of affirmation. So I've set reminders in the app to call, text, and email her just to let her know how much I love her, appreciate how hard she works, encourage her, or any other ways to share uplifting words of affirmation with her. Her second love language is gifts. Of course it is. Sometimes I'll surprise her with her favorite candy bar or a gift card to her favorite coffee shop, take her shopping, or send her a card explaining why I love her so much. By doing this, I'm protecting our marriage and filling her emotional gas tank. Now, my number one love language is quality time together. So she looks for creative ways for us to be together. Sometimes she'll call and we'll talk through a large portion of lunch. In February, we'll celebrate our 30th wedding anniversary. Since we started using Love Nudge, we've both felt closer to one another than ever before. It's helped us move past disagreements more quickly and into a resolution. It's like we compete to outdo one another in honor, love, and intimacy. By guarding the sacredness of sexuality, we honor God. Sex that is honored is holy. Sex that is honored is happy. So let me ask you this. What changes do you need to make in your relationships that honors God? During your discussion time, let this question keep flowing through your mind. All right? Do you want to please God? As you're answering the questions from the discussion, keep thinking, do I want to please God? Do I want to live a life that's pleasing to God?